All right? One thing about the Akedah, and we'll go from there. Uh, okay, so the Akedah obviously is one of the most difficult parshas to understand, and I just want to share with you just one or two insights on the Akedah. Um, First of all, just the beginning of the Kedah, which is not the hard part, where Kadosh Baruch Hu appears to Avram and says, "Kachnas binchas yichidchas or after, please take your son, your only son, whom you love, Yitzchak, ba'aleyu shamal oila, alacham ashereka, and I want you to bring him one of the mountains, which I will show you." So Rashi is bothered by the word no, please. Please is a request. This is not a request. This is a tzivah. It's a command. Rashi says, "Ein no el lashon bakasha." No is an expression for request. This is not a request. This is a demand. Right? Actually, there is a Ran, a Drush Ran, which is not so well known, but it's incredible in what it purports to say, which is that according to the Ran, Einachanami, it's true. The Akedah was not a command. It was a request. Hashem didn't say you have to do it. I'd like you to do it. What does that mean? We know that a melech can give it tzivoy, and there's also a ratzon. There's two things. Something's what's commanded and what you will. Let's say your father calls you and says, what's your first name?
Josh.
Josh. Josh, I really like some water. I'm really thirsty. But you know what he really wants, a cold glass of Coke. So you run to the store, get him a glass of Coke, right? So even though the tzivoy was on the water, but because you had a deeper relation with that person, you understood what the ratzon really was. Agreed? You might even call it the letter law versus the spiritual law. Right? The letter law says, is there anything wrong with reading comic books all day Yom Kippur? You didn't violate a single law. But the spirit law will tell you that you blew it, right? Mm-hmm. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is the time Hashem is introducing to Avram, not a tzivoy, but the ratzon. It's my request that you do it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is introducing another level of relationship with us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not just based on tzivoy, but based on ratzon.
But murder is against no high boss.
Yeah.
So if it was just a ratzon, then he shouldn't be able to allow to break the law for it.
Okay, no, because I understand your question, but I would ask that question even if it was a tzivoy. If murder is wrong, how Kadosh Baruch Hu be mitzvah to do murder? All right, so we have to address that question anyway, right? Okay, it's a good question, Josh. Yeah, Josh. So I was wondering, why is this murder anyway? Right? How do you understand that? And what's really confusing is the Torah mentions numerous times. It warns us, don't be like those Ovdei Avodah Zarah that take their children and throw them into the fire, Lamolech, right? So we don't believe in human sacrifice. What's going on here, right? So that's in general, that's a fair question to ask. All right, maybe we'll get there, yes.
I think it's Nechama Leibowitz who makes the point that this was really a test of Abraham's faith. Abraham had complete faith. He knew that God doesn't permit murder.
Right.
And therefore, he knew that Abraham, at some point, would stop and not allow the killing of Yitzchak. He didn't know how, he didn't know when, but he had enough faith to know, and that's why it was a test, and he passed the test.
Okay, I hear that. I mean, I have a couple problems with that, because number one is if he knew it was going to stop, somehow, some way, it's not so much of a test. And number two, so I mean, Hashem was like playing games with him. I'm trying to do so, but I hear. I like to say it a little differently. All right, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to say it a little bit differently. Fine, but I want to just mention that Rashi. So Rashi's bothered. Why does it say no? Right? Rashi says it's a request. So Rashi says two pshatim. Rashi says like this. Hashem says, please, I want you to pass this last test, because if you don't pass this last test, then the first 9 tests that I gave you will be worthless. What's going on? Avram had a total of 10 tests in his life. Hashem says, please pass this final test, because if you don't, the first 9 will be worthless. That's the please. What does that mean? If you go to school, you're in college, and you take, the professor gives you 10 tests, and the first 9 you get 100, and the last one you flunk. So you get your grade, you get back your grade, it gives you a 0 for the whole semester. You go, excuse me, he says, well, you flunked the final, the 9 tests are worthless. You say, listen, it's not worthless. I mean, the finals are weighted. They're worth 30% of your grade, 40, whatever number it is. But you don't dismiss totally the first nine tests. So what's Hashem saying? If you don't pass this last test, the first 9 that I gave you are worthless. What is that? Why they rendered worthless? So I want to share with you an interesting insight. First of all, when we say Avram had 10 tests, that's all he had was 10 tests.
More than
You have 100 tests every single day. Your patience is tested, your anger is tested, your temptations are tested, lashon hara, you name it. Every day we have 100 tests. What do you mean? Avram only had 10 tests his whole life? What does that mean? It's absurd. It doesn't mean that. Avram, as a human being, had 100 tests every day. As an Av, as a patriarch, which means that these tests would have significance and implication for the genes of Klal Yisrael for the rest of history. He had 10 of those. Okay, you with me so far? Of course, as a human being, as an individual, as a private citizen, he had 100 tests every single day. But these tests, these 10 tests, were national tests. Every one of these tests that he accomplished was not only accomplished for him, it became something that all the Klal Yisrael, all the Jewish people now have the ability to pass because he passed those tests himself. So far, so good? Okay. The final test, the Akedah Yitzchak, the binding of Yitzchak, is the ultimate in Mesiras Nefesh. Everyone agrees that's the ultimate sacrifice. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was testing Avram in the ultimate Mesiras Nefesh, sacrifice. Do you love me more than anything else in the world? Rav Schwab once told me, interesting, that his father, at the Pesach Seder, I don't know if he said it more than once or every year, I don't remember what it was, but he told me something, he said it shook him to the core, and it certainly shook me to the core, but he said it was such a powerful message. He said he was a young boy, I remind myself being like he's 8 years old, 9 years old, could be wrong, but that's what I remember. His father told him and his other brothers at the Seder, he said, I want you to know something, I love you so much, but I love Hashem more. Powerful. Right? Father telling a child, I love you so much, I love Hashem more. That's the Akedah. The Akedah is that above all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And let's understand, if we want to figure out what the secret, or not such big secret, of the survival of Klal Yisrael, why we're around today, is because of Mesiras Nefesh. That we're willing to die and not give up on Yiddishkeit no matter what, that's why we're still around today. It's Mesiras Nefesh that your parents had and your grandparents had, whether it was to lose a job every Erev Shabbos because they wouldn't work on Shabbos, well, you name it. Sacrifice, they worked hard, earned every penny so you can go to a school, whatever or get your kids into school, whatever the case is. Mesiras Nefesh on every single level is why we're around today. Having said that, this is what Hashem is saying. Listen to the math. Hashem is telling Avram, please pass this final test, because this is the final test of Mesiras Nefesh. Because if you don't get Mesiras Nefesh through this test, then the Jewish people, it won't be passed on to the Jewish people, because everything you do is for them. If they don't get Mesiras Nefesh, there won't be a Jewish people. If there won't be a Jewish people, what was the point of those first 9 tests? They're worthless. All these tests were only for Klal Yisrael's sake. So what Hashem is saying, if you don't pass this test, the first 9 are worthless, is because the whole point of these 10 tests were for Klal Yisrael, that everyone that you accomplish puts strength into Klal Yisrael. But if you don't pass this last test of Mesiras Nefesh, there won't be a Klal Yisrael. There won't be a Klal Yisrael, then what was the point of the first 9 tests? They're in fact worthless. That's one way of understanding Rashi. I want to show you another pshat in understanding Rashi. It's kind of based on morale. He doesn't say the whole thing, but Maral talks about numbers a lot. Maral says the number 10 represents a unit. Makes sense, right? You have 9 separate integers, and 10 becomes a collective unit. Like you have 9 separate individuals, 10 makes a million, right? Where the whole is even greater than some of its parts. And even in math, the number 10 is actually the 1 and a 0 all over again, starting over again. You just completed the unit, right? So 10 represents a unit. That's why it's not a coincidence you have 10 commandments, 10 plagues, 10 words 10 sentences in which Hashem created the world, because 10 is a unit. 10 represents a unit. That's the significance of number 10. So there are 10 tests. This 10th test is going to complete the unit of tests. Maral points out, shleimut, which means completion, is an interesting thing. If I yank at my jacket, it's not going to rip, necessarily, but if there's a little rip in my jacket and I yank it, it's going to rip much more, right? If I have a vase and I do this, it's not going to crack, but if there's a little crack already and I do this, it's going to crack more. What does that mean? The Maral says, something that's shalem, something that's whole, has certain strength to it. But once there's a crack, all bets are off. But shalem gives something strength. Shleimut gives something strength. Okay, Let's use a more practical example. Let's say someone says to me, Rabbi, I started to keep kosher. I'm keeping kosher 80% of the time. That's a whole lot better than zero, for sure. But here's the thing. If you're keeping 80% of the time, that means you're always leaving yourself open for negotiation. Something, come to this party, it's not kosher. Should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? Because it's a negotiable. You created that negotiable because you created that 20% gap. Anything that you do, but you leave a little opening, creates a gap and open negotiation. Once something becomes a non-negotiable, you don't have the temptation anymore. Right? I'm giving you a really bad example. If somebody would say, I want you to know something, I was so furious at my mother, I wanted to take a 2x4 and smash her over the head. But you know what? I was able to overcome my anger. You're not going to say, wow, what strength. You're going to say, you're a sick puppy, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Because it should be a non-negotiable. It shouldn't even enter your brain. That's even a havamina, right? Because it's a non-negotiable. I've said this story, I don't know if it's said to here, but a lot of parents have had this experience. I always say, one of my daughters, I always said she had two voices, loud and louder. So she was just that kind of person. She still is that way, actually. Sorry, but she still is that way. Sorry about that. All right? Anyway. So, now, in general, kids have very good negotiating skills. You know that. But there's one negotiating skill that they're really, really good about. It's called wearing you down. Can I have it, 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 right? And they're also smart. They do it like when you're on the phone and you're too busy. Oh, okay, right, fine. Right, so you just signed off, you have no idea what you signed off for, but they know exactly what they're doing. They're wearing you down and they know exactly what they're doing. They're not these cute little, they know, they're manipulative, they're very clever, they know exactly what they're doing. Okay. So, this happened to me, I'm sure it happens to others. I take my kid shopping, we're going, and she's in a shopping cart, we're buying food, she goes, she's a chocolate bar, can I have it? No, can I have it? No, can I have it? 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 Fine, she's carrying on, you're embarrassed, you're this, you're busy. Okay, fine, you give her the chocolate bar. Okay, which is a big mistake, because all you taught her is that if you nudge long enough, you get what you want. Okay. Same thing happens another time, points to chocolate bar, can I have it? No, can I have it? It's not kosher. Boom, stopped. Now she's 5 years old, she's not committed religiously yet. She has no idea what she's talking about, right? But she knows it's a non-negotiable. It doesn't tempt her. She just knows, we don't eat non-kosher. So it just doesn't even, she doesn't go there because it's a non-negotiable. In our life, you have to figure out what's non-negotiable, make things non-negotiables, and once you create that non-negotiable, it doesn't become tempting anymore because you create that non-negotiable. When you're complete in something, it's a non-negotiable. Right? Person that I keep kosher. You never don't eat kosher, so you don't have a temptation ever. It's just a non-negotiable. Right? Whatever it's going to be. Person keeps Shabbos all the time, it's a non-negotiable. When you get to that point where it's a non-negotiable, you don't have the back and forth. You don't have the sichsot back and forth. Al pi remez, you could say even, it says in Bereshit, la pesach chatas robetz. When there's an opening, that's when sin hovers in. When you create an opening, that's when you create. But as long as there's no gap. Okay, so shleimut creates that sense of completeness. So Hashem saying to Avram, you need to complete this test, because this is going to complete you. Otherwise, the first 9, all bets are off too. Because completion creates strength. There's a very famous story about Rabbi Sol Salanter, who had a famous Talmud, Rabbi Itzel Petterberger. He was a huge, brilliant man. And he spent a lot of time with him, molding his midos, developing him as a personality. And someone was telling me, how could you do that? Just let him be in the base medrash. He could end up being the greatest genius of our generation. And then you kind of compromise that because he tried to work on all his midos and everything else. So Rasul said, it's a halacha. So what are you talking about? The halacha is like this. When you make a bracha on a food, so there's a priority. If you have a whole fruit versus a cut-up fruit, right? Or a nicer fruit versus a not nicer fruit, you make the bracha on a nice fruit if all things being equal. What happens? You're sitting down to a meal, and someone puts a little challah roll in front of you. Or they put in front of you, those wedding cake, the wedding challahs that are huge, they put that in front of you. It's braided with 16 braids. It's beautiful, but it's missing a piece of challah. What do you make the bracha on? The tiny little challah or the big, beautiful challah? The tiny little challah. Why? Because it's whole. There's a mila in shleimut. It's whole. Hashem saying to Avram, be whole. Complete this last test. All right? I'll end with one thought. I was going to end here, but I'll do one thing. The whole idea of how could Hashem ask Avram to kill his son, it's beyond the pale of understanding. And also, it's cool Hashem tested Avraham. Why not test Yitzchak? He's the one who's putting his neck on the line, literally, right? Why is it called Avram's test? Elokim ni says Abraham. Yitzchak. And he's no baby, he's 37 years old, right? So why is it called Avram's test? And what does it mean later on? Hashem says, stop, just kidding. I said, V'halei la'olah, to bring him up as a sacrifice. I didn't say bring him as a sacrifice, just bring him up to that point. So Avram miscommunicated, so it was like a mistake? What's going on here? Hashem used ambiguous language to fool him. Just kidding. What's really going on over here? So, the short version of a really deep idea is like this. Bereshit bar Elokim. It all starts at the beginning. Bereshit bar Hashem, in the beginning created. So Rashi says, Elokim is the midah of din, the attribute of justice. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create the world with justice. That means a very exacting behavior. You get exactly what you deserve. You mess up, you get punished. You do right, you get rewarded. But Hashem said, the world can't survive that way. Human beings make too many mistakes. Hashem said, you know what, I'm going to take that back and create a world. Shut from Yisrachim. Hashem said, I'm going to also involve, every judgment is going to involve Rachmim, compassion as well. Okay. Why does the Torah need to tell us how Hashem intended to create the world if that didn't happen? What do you need to know? What do you need to know that for? Must mean that the Torah is telling us that that concept still exists. Avram is the world of Chesed. Right? Avram is the world of Chesed. In the world of Chesed, there's no place for an Akedah. Chesed? Rachamim? Chesed? You're going to kill somebody? Makes no sense. And therefore, in our world, because we're Olam Chesed Yibana, the world is based on Chesed for the most part, there's no room for that. Human sacrifice makes no sense. But in the world of Din, it exists. What's a carbon? A carbon you're supposed to look at the carbon and say, you know what? That should have been me. Mm-hmm. Right? In the world of Din, that should have been you. Hashem said, I'm not going to do that to you. But in the world of Din, it should have been you. So it's true that we don't have human sacrifice because in the world of Chesed, it can't exist. But in the world of Din, it should have been. In fact, by the way, the Chazal even tell us that when you go through the carbon, you're supposed to say, okay, when the sacrifice is over, that should be my innards, and this should be right. But each part of the carbon, you say that should have been me, that should have been me, it should have been me. You know where you get that from? Avram, because when Avram shechted the ayil, each part of the way when he checked the ram, he kept saying this should have been this instead of Yisrael, this instead of Yisrael. He made that transfer. He did the exact same transfer. But the bottom line, in the world of Din, that should happen. So in the world of Avram, the world of Chesed, this can't be. It's a total test to Avram. In the world of Chesed, this can't exist. But in the world of Yitzchak, because Yitzchak himself was the world of Din, Chazal say, Yitzchak tava Yisurin. Yitzchak kept saying, Hashem, give me pain. Was a masochist? Chas v'sholom. What he's saying, what it means is, Hashem, don't hold back. If I did something wrong, let me have it. Because I want to live the life of Din. Because that's really, in the ideal state, that should be. Hashem modifies it because we can't handle it. But the ultimate should be, you get exactly what you deserve. I'm treating like an adult. A kid, he makes a mistake one time, two times, you keep looking the other way. Right? That's a kid. But an adult, he should have consequences. So in the world of Din, Yitzchak could have been gone. Because who, in fact, in the world deserves to live? None of us in the world of Din deserve to live. Or to demand that we have a right to expect our children to live. In the world of Din, who's really deserving? Nobody's deserving in the world of Din. Nobody does everything right. Nobody. Hashem doesn't expect that in the world of Chesed. But Hashem is saying, in the world of Din, Yitzchak's world does exist. So it's a test to Avram, but not to Yitzchak. Because in Avram's world, it can't exist. But in Yitzchak's world, it can exist. But let's go on. So when Hashem said, stop, he wasn't just joking. This is going on. We have different kinds of worlds. This is called the Olam HaMachshava, the world of thought. And then we have the world of Maisa, the world of action. And we live in the world of Maisa and action. Why do we need to do actions? What's wrong with not just having Machshava? Why not just have Machshava? I'm thinking the right things. I'm thinking I'm connected to Hashem. Why do I have to do things? The answer is, because as human beings, because we're physical, unless we do something, it doesn't become real to us. Everything in our mind remains abstract. It's not real until we actually do them. That's the human beast. The human being, by nature, needs physical things to make things real for him. All right? So we have to do physical actions and mitzvot to make that in our head real. Otherwise, it's not real yet. But what happens What happens if you're such a person that your machshava is so concentrated and focused and real and perfect that you don't need the action to accomplish what the machshava is going to accomplish? Then you don't need the action. Hashem is not saying to Avram, I changed my mind. Just kidding. Mission accomplished. Normally there needs to be an action to make sure that your mind is fully realized. But Avram fully realized his commitment to give up Yitzchak was full and total without the action. So it was actually done. In the world of machshava, in the world of thought, it happened. The Akedah actually happened. And that's why it's always called the ashes of Yitzchak. Because in that world, it actually took place. In fact, Yitzchak, the letters transposed, spelled Ketzchai, the end of life. Because Yitzchak died in the world of machshava. In fact, that's why Yitzchak is associated with Tchias HaMesim. Right? Mechayim Mesim is for Yitzchak. Because Yitzchak experienced a rebirth. Because in that upper world, it actually happened. It's a very abstract concept, it's a Kabbalah concept, that it actually happened in that world of machshava. So Hashem didn't say, oh, just kidding. No, it actually took place in that world. Avram did not need the Maisa for himself to make it real. We need action to make our machshava real. He accomplished that goal in that world of machshava. So Hashem's not changing his mind. It actually took place. The Akedah took place, and that's what we're trying to say. So it's an important concept that we understand that world of machshava, that we understand that there's a world of din. In the world of din, we ought not to be living, but in the world of chesed, it's incompatible. Understood. So I want to add that even though we're not on that madrega, we're not on that madrega where we do an action. When we have a thought, it's so concentrated and pure and perfect. We don't need that. We need actions. But there is a concept called Hakadosh Baruch Hu is mistar machshav lamaisa, which means if a person wanted to do a mitzvah, he really wanted to do a mitzvah, and if for some reason it didn't work, he gets the reward for it anyway. Where do you learn that from? So Gemara actually has different psukim to learn from, but the Meshech Chochmah says it's from this story. The fact that Avram wanted to do the Akedah, and he was stopped, and Hashem says it was done. From here you learn that idea. What does that mean? In the same parsha of Akedah, we learn that Avram was willing to give everything up for Hashem. So what does that mean? That means, at the end of the day, every Jew, really deep down, wants to do what Hashem wants to do. Every Jew is wanting to be Meiser Nefesh. And therefore, when a person really wants to do something and it doesn't get done, I say, you know what? Because you were genuine and you really wanted, Hashem says, I'm going to consider it as if it was done already. So even though we're not on Avram's Madrega, that the actual Akedah took place, but we do benefit from that concept we got from Avram, that when we want to do a good mitzvah and it doesn't work out, Hashem says, I'm going to consider it on some level. You're going to get credit for it. It's not quite the same thing as the Akedah, but that concept that when a Jew wants to do the right thing and it just doesn't work out, he gets credit for it, is from this story actually. Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I know really deep down you want to do it. Because v'haraya, you're able to be most nefesh for anything and everything for Jewish people, and for Klal Yisrael, and for Kadosh Baruch Hu rather. And because of that, when you want to do, when a Jew wants to do a mitzvah and he really wants it, and for some reason, la Allah, didn't go for whatever reason, he gets credit for it on some level. We learned that from the Akedah. So while the Akedah is on a much bigger scale, that the Akedah actually happened in different ramifications, but every Jew knows that we have a little bit of that. A little bit of Akedah happens in all our lives. When we really, if we really are, Hashem says, I know a Jew deep down wants to do the Ratzon Hashem. Every Jew wants to do what the right thing is for Hashem. And therefore, when you want to do a mitzvah, you really want to do so, and it didn't work out, you're going to get credit for it. That we got from Avinu, who got credit for the Akedah, even though it wasn't actually done, because his mind was so complete. That's what you learn over there. So Hashem didn't change his mind, but mission accomplished. You follow? We'll stop here, we'll pick it up, make some next time.
If I may say just one thing,
Yeah.
I find it, of what you said earlier, I find it very empowering for me as a Jew to know that I've got some of Abraham's genes in me.
Oh, absolutely.
And
It should be
it's
empowering.
also empowering to know that my ancestor was asked to do something that no one else was ever asked to do, to prove himself,
Right.
and which is what makes Judaism unique and different from any other belief system, of any other religion.
There is no other.
Huh?
There is no other. Judaism is it. That's it.
All right, that's it. But, and you already mentioned the qualities in your talk, but Abraham had three unique qualities: chesed, emunah, faith, and action. And those are the three things that made him a special person, and those are the three things that make us special people when we execute.
Agreed, 100%.
One more, Emmett.
ربي حنانيا بنا أخشى من الأول شنو مرة ناخذ
yes,
قصة وياك دي ترابي يا دير
That makes sense.